Okay, it is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, at Richland County Board of Commissioners, our session coming to you from our new L2 conference room that we are using. So I'll say that is a good thing. I'm Commissioner Barrow, joined by Commissioners Banks and Mears, our senior clerk Stacy Kroll, our county administrator Andrew Keller. We got our buddy Christian from IT today, who we're happy to see instead of Matt Hill, so it's good to see him. And always good to see Mark Caudill, and again, better him than Lou Whitmer. So we're getting the upgrades today. We're getting the A team,
I'll
right?
get back to her. No.
So we'll start with our logistical items. I would like to make an amended motion to the minutes at tape 0.2245, where we discussed the transfer from the jail health insurance line item to the jail salary line item. I believe that amount was 300,000, wasn't it, Stacy? We didn't list the amount in the transfer. We now,
It's like 320.
it was three. I mean, I think it's important to list the amount in the
Alright.
minutes should the public read that. So if we could put the exact amount in, that would be my amended motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Motion to approve requisitions?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to make an amended motion on the weekly transfers and appropriations. I'm going to make a motion to amend actually the wastewater debt request. If you look in the reasons to transfer, it says for public defender monies. That's actually for debt payment. So I'll ask that we would amend that motion to note that the wastewater transfer would be for debt payments.
So moved.
Second.
That's my error.
That's okay.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Banks.
Yes.
All right, next up, we have a request from 5 Job and Family Services employees to attend Human Resources Training and Orientation. And we have that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
All right, next up, we have a quote from J&B Acoustical to do some drywall work at the jail. This is for 5,096. This would come out of capital. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Coming from the jail budget.
Oh, it's coming from the jail budget. Ooh,
Sir.
I like that.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
All right, next up, we have it's not only an agreement, it's a gold service agreement, gentlemen. This is with TK Elevator Corporation. This is a standard maintenance agreement. It's for 5 years, and this is to do maintenance checks on our elevators. So may we have a motion to do so?
It looks like $842.68 a month. So moved.
And I'll second it with a kudos to Mr. Keller. This was not an easy one to get to.
This fall, we're just finishing up in December, our 1 year warranty coverage period
Oh.
that came with the installation of the east and west elevators. So now we're entering into a
Service agreement.
5 year service agreement.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
All right, next up, we have a request from Community Control that we approve an addendum to their community-based corrections subsidy grant agreement. Hey, we're getting a little bit of an increase here, fellas. So that's always good, that more money coming to the county. So it would be an addendum to the original one. And that would be for fiscal year 26 and 27. And it will, and not in any case, exceed 2463 061. May we have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. We have a utility permit application from National On Demand. And they are just seeking to remove, these are AT&T lines across the county spanning 8 county roads. May we have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
All right, change orders, right, Andrew? We have a change order request for our common areas, land bank, project going on in the building. This is to relocate a generator remote enunciator, and this is per our request. Of course, that change order or the action or service to do so will cost $760.04, resulting in a change order. This would be change order number 11. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Yes.
Banks.
yes.
Any questions out there? Anybody? Okay, we will recess until 10 o'clock.
And good luck even finding.
Stacy, you ready? All right, we're back in session. We got some new guests today. Love seeing everyone, even Jerry Snag. We are here, for those of you for a little bit of history, on October 13th. We received proposals from financial institutions seeking to be a depository for public funds. The way the Ohio Revised Code worked then is after we review the proposals, just to make sure that all the signatures are there. So we'll say the procedural items, we turn them over to the treasurer, who by the Ohio Revised Code is to make a recommendation as to who the county should use as depository or depositories. And the four institutions, as we previously discussed, who submitted to do so were Park National Bank, Mechanics Bank, Huntington Bank, and Civista Bank. We have the treasurer here to answer any questions, but it appears, and Bart and Andy, you guys correct me if I'm saying this wrong, you have made the recommendation that we accept all four to be a depository with some caps. You have Park National not to exceed 250 million, Huntington Bank not to exceed 250 million, Civista Bank not to exceed 20 million, and Mechanics Bank not to exceed 15 million. Before we ask for any motions, Bart, if you or Andy want to speak to why Civista and Mechanics in your recommendation are to exceed smaller amounts for the public record?
Those were their responses to our offering to be a depository.
Okay, so those were the amounts.
That's what they told us.
There was a part in there that asked what their maximum amount was, and that's what.
It's a self-imposed cap.
Okay,
Well, they are smaller banks.
well, that makes sense then. So this time we have a resolution here. And the resolution states that it would award proposals and approving agreements with local financial institutions for designation as a depository of active public funds. It lists those caps. I see no reason to go against the recommendation of the treasurer at this time, so I'll ask for motion to approve the resolution with those stated caps.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second,
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes,
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
yes,
questions, media?
You said it was just those four that were received, correct?
Those are the four that responded.
Okay.
Did everything. How many did we have total, Stacy? Like 10?
I don't remember.
Something like
I'd
that.
have to go look.
I mean, there were a number of banks we sent to, and definitely everybody in the county. These are the four that responded. Sometimes people don't want to do business with us.
One did
How
call,
could they?
the others didn't respond, so.
Yeah, that's all I got, Mark.
Marky Mark?
No, don't.
Okay, seeing no further business, we will recess and come back at 11 o'clock.
Thanks, folks.
They'll come
Okay, that's, yeah. No, I'm good, thank you so much.
I'll hold myself accountable as soon as I get back down.
Okay, it is 11 a.m. Your Richland County Board of Commissioners are now in session. We have an 11 o'clock agenda item today to discuss local property tax exemptions. Just a couple of house cleaning items before we get started. First off, a little birdie tells me that it is Dr. Julie Chea's birthday today in the health department, so happy birthday. 29?
That's right.
29, okay, good. And for those of you who were here last time, apologies for repeating myself, but I do think it's important to note we are coming live today. For those of you who didn't attend last week, from what used to be the Richland County Jail. So hopefully you are here voluntarily as opposed to those who used to visit this space previously, but this was part of a taxpayer-funded, debt-free, multi-year project to convert old jail space into a functioning public services. So again, we want to thank the taxpayers for truly providing this. As you can see, we're using the room. New clerk's office next door was also the jail. And again, as I said last time, if you get a chance to check out downstairs, which also used to be right, Jimmy, the sheriff's office down there, solitary. Hopefully no one visited there. We have completely renovated that. New land bank offices, new training for community control. Truly a multi-year project that we're proud of, debt-free, and it's because of the tax revenue we get, which we'll discuss today. So if you have a couple minutes, please check that out. Now, as we said last time too, we want to afford everyone the opportunity to speak, but we have a lot of people here today. Our rules generally have a 3-minute time limit. We don't like to enforce that. If you're going to take the time out of your busy day to speak, certainly don't want to hold a stopwatch up here and say, okay, Pastor Kurtz, I don't think your sermons, I mean, what, they're like 2 hours long anyway. So let's try to cut it to 3 minutes. Just be mindful of that. There's going to be a lot of questions. And so please be mindful of everyone's time, as I know it is valuable. And lastly, before I kick it over to her, I especially want to thank State Representative Marilyn John, who's here today. I know that this has been a tough discussion at the State House. We discussed the statewide initiative last time to abolish property taxes. I think you might speak to that a little bit. We want to thank you for coming up. We know it's not easy. I'm sure there will be some hard questions. Again, please direct all hard questions to her. I would like that very much, but we want to thank her for coming because we know it's not an easy job and she's fighting hard for Columbus. And I always tell people, Richland County has.
Fighting hard for Richland County.
Correct.
Columbus.
We have the best state senator, state rep combo in the state of Ohio, and Senator Mark Robichuk and Marilyn John. And that's not just me saying that because she's a friend. It's because I've seen what a lot of other counties don't have. So I want to thank her for being here. Now I'm going to shut up, which I'm sure makes all of you happy, and I'm going to turn it over to her to discuss what's going on at the state.
Well, thank you all for being here. Thanks for inviting me to be here to talk about an issue that I know is very concerning to everybody in this room. If it were not concerning to you, you would not be here. So to put a few things into perspective and to share with you some of the things that we are looking at the state level when it comes to property tax. So within the last 3 years, I'm sure most people in the room understand how property tax valuations happen in that they, there are every 3 years and every 6 years we have a reappraisal, and then every 3 years we have a reeval. So it's called triennial. So in the last 2 years around the state of Ohio, property tax values have spiked. In some places as much as 40+%. What that has led to is it has led to higher, actually significantly higher property tax bills going out to residents. And we have been hearing about that at the state level. Probably many of you have heard about it in your capacity at the local level. And what are you going to do about the spikes that have taken place? Many people have received property tax bill hikes. They've been in their homes for decades. Their homes have been paid off. And they're not intending to move from their house, but they're getting higher tax bills because the value of their home has increased as a result of the neighbor's house going up for sale. I came home, this was probably 2 years ago. I came home, my husband had been working outside. Our house is not for sale. We're not intending to move anytime soon. And somebody stopped by, rolled down the window and said, hey, we're looking to buy a house in Shelby. Is your house for sale? We might be interested. He went, no, our house is not for sale. So, because of market, the market, property taxes, property values went up, and as a result, property taxes went up significantly. It should not have happened, but it did. What did we do at the state level? The budget before last, we created a property tax commission to look at the. We studied it for over a year. This is the report that came out. I was not on the commission. There were a couple members of the House, a couple members of the Senate on the commission. They held meetings. There were individuals that hold your jobs or from around the state who came in and talked to them. They studied it. They came out with 22 recommendations. These are things to look at. Some of the recommendations actually were in conflict with each other. Like if you do this, then you can't do this. Or if you do that, then it doesn't make sense to do this. So we started taking a look at what could work to bring property tax relief to the residents. At that same time, there was a ballot initiative that people began talking about. It is a real thing. They have money behind them that support them. I can't tell you whether, I'm not going to make a judgment on whether they are right or not. The people who started it felt like their property tax bills went up too high. And they did. 40% spike in your property tax bill. First of all, probably most of the people in this room own a house and have and received property tax bills. Probably received similar spikes. That started a ballot initiative. It is a real thing. They are collecting signatures as we speak. To put that into perspective, if you have not been paying attention to the ballot initiative, we in Columbus are paying very close attention to it. They are collecting signatures as we speak. There were in May, over one weekend in May, there were 90 events that took place around the state of Ohio where they were collecting signatures. At the Darke County Fair, which happened in August or September, I know the Republican Party chair there. They had a booth. Number one request of people coming into their booth, where can I sign a petition? Angry that that they did not have a petition in the booth for people to sign. Talked to one of my colleagues, his name's Ty Moore. He covers 6 counties in his House district. He went to 6 county fairs. Every county fair he attended, there was a booth up collecting signatures to put this ballot initiative on for next year. They're aiming for November. So what does that look like? Right now, in the state of Ohio, for all of the property tax in the state of Ohio that is collected, all property tax stays local. Property tax doesn't come to the state. Property tax all stays local. All property tax around the state of Ohio collected equals $24 billion. So some look at it and say, okay, well, we'll just collect more sales tax or income tax. We'll fill that $24 billion hole with sales tax and income tax. All of the income tax around the state of Ohio that is collected, that covers every level of government, because income tax, as a former mayor, income tax helps cover municipalities. Sales tax helps cover county. If you put all of the income tax around the state of Ohio that's collected, together with all of the sales tax around the state of Ohio that's collected, it comes to 22 billion. So property tax collections come to more than the total of sales tax and income tax collected. So, we passed 4 laws in the House. They're over in the Senate now. And I'm assuming the Senate is going to take them up or do something with them. But 2 weeks ago, we passed 2 laws that have an impact on property tax collection. There was an article that came out in Gong where it's a state house media source that covers a lot of the committee meetings that we do. So following the passage of those 2 laws, they did an article. The individual that is leading the charge, his name is, I believe, Brian. He said, "We will not be deterred. We are moving forward with this." They cited in this article a study that came from the Tax Foundation. And they look at state projects. They looked specifically at what happens for us in the state. If this ballot initiative passes and $24 billion of property tax goes away, the only way to fill that is either through income tax or sales tax. That would take the income tax level in the state of Ohio to that equal of California. That means, somebody said to me last night, the companies that will do great after that are the U-Haul company. Because people are going to be hightailing it out of the state of Ohio. I looked up this morning to see where we fall when it comes to highest and lowest tax states. We don't fall in the top 10 of highest tax states. We don't fall in the bottom 10 states. We fall at 35. So we're in the middle. We're not the worst, but we're also not the best. We have a number of different taxes that we put on the residents of the state of Ohio. I want to point out a couple of things. Sometimes I hear, well, we don't want to put more levies on our locals. We think that the state should come in and they should do it. It doesn't matter if it is local levies, if it is state, if it is federal tax dollars. Those tax dollars are being paid by the same people, by all of us. We all pay taxes at the same level of government. The state government is funded in the same way that local governments are funded, through taxpayers. Federal government is the same. So whether it's a local tax levy that you all put on, or whether it's a state tax collection through income tax or something else, sales tax that we put on, those taxes are still being paid by the same people, residents, businesses that pay at the local level. So I do think that we need to be careful when we say, well, the state should pay that versus the local, because it's all the same people paying the taxes. So why are we 35th? There's a number of things that feed into that. And many of them were not decisions that anybody in this room made, were not necessarily decisions that I've made. I've only been in the State House 5 years. Many of these things have happened over the more than 200-year history of the state. Right now, the state of Ohio, we look at a lot of different rankings when we compare the state to the other in the United States. So I mentioned that we're 35th as far as level of taxes that we put on our residents. We are number 2 out of all 50 states in having the most number of taxing authorities. We have 6,500 taxing authorities in the state of Ohio. We're number 2 to Pennsylvania, I believe is the number 1. We're very close though. That's the number of organizations that have the ability to levy a tax on the citizens. That is very high, which is one of the reasons that we're 35th. Because we have so many jurisdictions that can levy a tax on residents. We are looking at what does that mean and how can we have greater control over that? Now, I'm gonna admit, like, we added 9 in the state budget. I didn't even know we added. We added 9 taxing jurisdictions in the state budget. So I said this past week to our caucus, no more. We cannot continue to do that. We have to do better when it comes to having better control over who has the ability to go out and levy a tax against our residents. We also have to do a much better job. Look, I've served at the local level. I've served as a mayor. I've served as a county commissioner. I know what it's like to have the state and federal government come in and say, you all need to do this now, but not offer anything to help compensate us on how to do it. I said to our caucus this past week, we have over 500 bills that have been introduced in the state from the House of Representatives in Ohio. We need to go back and evaluate every one of those bills. If they add a taxing jurisdiction, rewrite it. If it adds a mandate to any local government, rewrite it. Figure it out differently, or have a very good justification for why we're doing it. I had somebody ask me at an event last night in Columbus about a piece of legislation that would actually be very helpful to law enforcement. And I said, okay, wait a second. Is this going to require local law enforcement to add software to their vehicles? And they went, I don't think so. I said, I'm going to need that question answered. Is it going to require local law enforcement to hire anybody to figure out how to do it? Are they going to have to pay to go to training somewhere to figure out how to do it? All of those things have to be considered when we are introducing legislation. I have also said to individuals who have brought that up to me and said, you have too many mandates on us. Please send them to me and tell me what mandates you think you don't make sense. Government is often too big. So if there are mandates within your jurisdictions, your organizations that you think this just doesn't make any sense anymore, why are we doing this? We could save money if we didn't. Please let me know so that we can take a look at it. I know there are individuals in the House right now that are specifically looking at the schools. And what are the mandates that we have put on schools that should not exist, that has caused the schools to hire another individual to meet this requirement? So there are individuals that are absolutely looking at that are we have a former school superintendent, we have former teachers that can help us evaluate that. That's how we got to where we are. If we don't at the state, and if we don't locally give residents a reason to vote no on this ballot initiative, it is of great concern that it will pass. I've had a number of people say to me, actually, I don't know if this person is in the room. I'm not going to name this person, but I was told by a school board member from this county, I'm not really opposed to the ballot initiative. And if it gets on, I'm likely to vote for it. Because then you in Columbus will just have to fix it. I was stunned. Stunned at that. Because if it gets to that point and we got to fix it in Columbus, I don't even know what the answer is. I hope that person was trying to tick me off or something. I don't know what they were trying to do by saying that. But there are people who have said to me, if the ballot initiative gets on, I'm voting yes. We are working very hard. You all are wondering, why are you doing this to us in Columbus? We are trying to give voters an alternative to voting yes for a ballot initiative because their property taxes have spiked to the level that they have spiked. Because if the ballot initiative passes, it is going to be 100 times worse than the 4 bills that we passed in the State House in the last 3 weeks. So I will be happy to answer questions as best as I can. I will also, I want to thank a couple of people in the room who have reached out to me. I had a great conversation with the Mayor of Shiloh this past week. He reached out to my office and said, I really need to understand this. I called him back. We had a great conversation about it. And so thank you for reaching out to my office. I want to thank the superintendent of Shelby. Michael and I have had coffee 3 or 4 times now. When he calls or text messages me, like, where can we meet? I try to make, I have had conversations with others who have reached out. I actually had a conversation with one school board member. I became a Grammy this summer. And I had a conversation with the school board member while I was visiting with my newborn granddaughter this past summer. But I have made time, taken time to meet with individuals that have requested it. Now, sometimes I get emails from people that just want to yell at me in the email.
That's usually for me.
No, I get plenty of text messages from you, as I'm sure everybody in this room does, but I'll do my best to answer the questions that I can. And if I don't have the answer, I will do what I can to get the answer to you.
And before we turn it over for questions, I do think it's important. I see a lot of the same faces we had at last meeting, but I think it's important just to go over for the new people that are here today, why we're here. Obviously, it's to discuss what Marilyn just talked about. We could go down the road of just the rippling effect of the property tax abolishment could do in terms of townships. Where's Deb Schweitzer at? Where you at, Deb? I'm putting you on Front Street. You called me this week and said, so wait, if this ballot initiative passes next year, townships go away. And I said, barring a replacement, yes. So that would include leaf pickup, road services, fire departments, any outstanding bond payments that townships have and fire departments, but those are just to be discussed down the road. But House Bill 96 essentially gave counties the ability to provide additional property tax relief by offering piggyback homestead and the 2.5% owner occupant tax exemptions. So Pat, thank you for putting a spreadsheet. We passed this out last time. So what that would mean for Richland County residents in the event that the 3 of us would choose to approve those exemptions, it would afford cumulatively about $5.9 million of property tax relief to Richland County residents. A breakdown of that would be 4.1 million of tax relief to those who are eligible for the homestead exemptions, and would be about $1.73 million of property tax relief for those that receive the owner occupant tax exemptions. A breakdown by that, according to Pat, and thank you, Amy. So that would roughly affect 9,341 parcels on the homestead exemption side. Not everyone qualifies for the homestead exemption. There are some specific requirements that Pat can get into. Conversely, while a smaller amount, the owner occupant would afford tax relief to over 32,000 parcel owners in Richland County. So it'd be a smaller amount, but it would touch a much larger group of people. So that's something we've been weighing in our discussions. And one more point, as we discussed last time, where's Jeremy Seacrest at? Because I know he might have some questions. Right, wrong, or indifferent, or opinions aside, the Richland County schools would absolutely bear the brunt of the revenue loss should we grant these exemptions. And I think it is important to go over those numbers because we did hear from the schools last time. That's why Marilyn is here. I'm sure they'll have some questions. The schools would bear or suffer 62% of that loss in terms of the piggyback extensions, I show 62.8%. And of that $5.8 million of cumulative relief, both the homestead and the owner occupant, the schools would lose roughly $3.6 million in revenue spread across our local public schools. So that's a little bit of the overview and numbers. I thought it was important to go over that for those of you who weren't here last time to understand that. And now I will open the floor up again. I know you had some questions last time. Go ahead.
One of the things I want to add to that is, as I mentioned, when you think about the different types of taxes that we have around the state. Income tax typically is something that is municipal. Most municipalities exist by an income tax. Sales tax is county. Unfortunately, property tax is what's under attack right now. About 2/3 of the property taxes that's collected go to schools. So that's why you're seeing a bigger impact when the commissioners, at what the commissioners are looking at, a bigger impact on schools. It's because if we were looking at the income tax, abolishing the income tax, the schools might not be in the room today, but all of the municipalities would be in the room. If we were looking at the abolishment of sales tax, counties would be losing their minds right now. So just to point out, that's why there's a 62% impact. And the four bills, you mentioned the tax relief from what you're looking at. The four bills that we passed in the last 3 weeks in the House would bring $2.4 billion in tax relief around the state.
If granted. by all- Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. If all of that went through and it goes through the Senate and everything. But the reason for that is, again, to give residents a reason to vote no on a ballot initiative, should it make it on the ballot.
And Marilyn, we talked last time, previously the state backfills the existing owner occupant and homestead exemptions.
To the tune of $2 billion right now a year. So on the homestead exemption and the owner occupancy, right now for local governments, the state, through our taxpayers, backfills $2 billion to local governments for those.
Is there any talk, I know we discussed as I was picking up logs, any discussion on backfill of any of these exemptions granted at the state level?
So the exemptions you're looking at, no, but one of the bills that we passed yesterday, which would limit growth moving forward, we are putting in a total of $460 million and that will go directly to schools to hold them harmless from the repercussions of that bill. So there would be about 56 million in August of 26 and another 105 million. And the goal is to hold schools harmless until the next reappraisal triennial, which would then level then keep these spikes from happening.
Okay, so no backfill for these.
No, not at this point.
All right, that's a lot to take in, but now you've heard a lot from us. We think it's super important to hear from you. So who wants to be first today?
Pat, you talked about that homestead
Sir, could you
exemption.
please stand up and say your name if you could, just for our minutes?
Mark McKee,
Mark McKee, thank you.
directed to the auditor here for the homestead exemption. What's the criteria for that as far as the amount?
Well, the criteria, there's two different types of homestead exemptions. There's the regular and then there's one for veterans. So for the regular, the criteria is you have to be 65 or older or 100% disabled under Social Security. You also have to, there's also means testing. It was put back on the books back in 2013 during former Governor Kasich first budget. And currently, you have to earn less than $40,000. And what you do is you go to your Ohio State income tax line 3. And that's what would let you know if you were eligible as far as the means testing part of it goes.
So if you made more than 40, then all the other stuff is nullified, right?
But you can't qualify according to the state.
Right.
Correct.
So all that VA and all the other stuff don't count.
VA, there is no income.
Well, you said there was something to do with the veterans,
Well, no,
Yeah.
I didn't get to that part yet, because you,
but I'm just saying, no.
so
but
now
I'm
to
not-
get to the veterans, it's double. Okay, the credit is double and the income, means testing is double,
But if you make over 40, that's disqualified.
not for veterans, it would be 80. Or no, veterans don't even have means testing, sorry. So veterans, as long as you're considered 100% disabled by the Veterans Associate or Veterans. Not Social Security, the VA itself, then you qualify as a veteran.
So yeah, there's income and disability requirements associated with the homestead exemption.
Yeah, I understand the income, Ken, because I was refused that, but I just made barely over 40. So that'd be my question to you is why don't they raise that or lower that amount?
That's actually a
For
question
individuals.
for her.
They do raise that every year. We've seen that anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000. So what you need to do is check yearly to see what that amount does increase to you. It should be getting something from the state within the next week or so. So you can come into our office or you can give us a call. So if you were right at it, you know, there's a very good chance if your income stayed the same. But you need to look at line 3 on your state adjusted gross income because it doesn't include your Social Security. So what people feel about homestead is that they make too much money, but it doesn't take into consideration the Social Security amount. So you have to have other income to not qualify, make over 40,000. That was required for this last tax bill.
All right, that's not what I was told the last time I was there, but that's okay.
We have a portal that the state, we have to abide by their rules, so we have to put in your social security number, which is all confidential and secure, and we have to put in the social security number and it kicks back with your tax return. So if you were told you didn't qualify, it's because when we put it in the state portal, for IRS, that came back that you were overqualified for the minimum that the state for you. But you can check yearly, there's nothing. That's
I still don't feel it's enough. As far as income, I mean, it's way too high.
Way too low.
My
Yeah, and
opinion.
there was a
My
point,
opinion.
and there was a point in time where there was no income. And then, that was taken back off, we have people come in and say, well, my neighbor's a millionaire. And he's on homestead, but I can't get on homestead. Well, there was at one point no income, and those people, when they all changed, were grandfathered in. So that is how the program is written at the state level.
Anyone else? Next, all these people. That's it. All right, I was looking at Jeremy and Jason back there. I was like, which one was going? Let's go.
Elected officials
Line it
got
up.
their first fiscal oversight notice in the email yesterday, thanks to the state legislature, so we might as well speak up. So you talked about these, for instance, and I'll try to stick to the 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, can you say-
3 hours.
Have him say his name, Tony.
I'm gonna have to get the stopwatch
I
out.
might have to.
You need
The
to state,
backfill,
sir, state your name.
Jason Weitzel.
And you
Lexington
with?
Local Schools,
There you go.
treasurer CFO of Lexington Local Schools, seen firsthand the decimation of public education and what we're dealing with here. I'll try to cover a couple of things that you spoke of, Marilyn, when it comes to, the school board member, for instance. Yeah, there are school districts out there that have reached the point where we hear the same talking points when it comes to this potential abolishment of property taxes that's going on out there. And everything I hear from these talking points is everything you're doing is to cause people to not vote for that. But in doing that, you're destroying public school districts that are out there, as over $1 billion is shoveled elsewhere to private schools. And I've heard that talking point when you say it's the same money coming in, it's the same dollars coming in. So you have and I'm not sure who in the state legislature actually fully understands the funding formula as it's currently written. But when you look at the funding formula, it has an element to it that's the capacity side. And you're at the same time that you're attacking the 20 mil floor and attacking any growth that schools may have in the fact that House Bill 920, you never talk about the fact that effective rates go down as valuations go up and those types of things. Because it's all too complicated. It's purposely complicated for anybody in our community to understand. And you talk about schools being 65% reliant on property taxes. Well, who set up that system? It was not the school districts that set up that system. It's the same state legislature that's now demonizing the system that they've created, that the schools are reliant on those property taxes and had no growth for all these years. Finally hit the 20 mil floor naturally because they haven't been on the ballot for over 15 years, or they haven't been on the ballot for 20 years for new operating dollars. And as you do that, and then you simultaneously with House Bill 186, for instance, you talk about the backfill of that, you're backfilling the retroactive action that you're doing with House Bill 186 to say, not only are we going to attack this moving forward, we're going to take back some of the money that was generated from that growth that you finally got after getting no growth for decades. We're going to attack that. Now we're going to backfill it for a temporary amount of time, but you've now lost. There's a reason you didn't just take out the retroactive nature of it. You're saying we're going to backfill it temporarily, and then you've lost that growth forever. As a district or anybody, you've lost that growth forever. So now you're stuck at the district getting fiscal oversight notifications from state. The irony is not lost on us that we have to explain to another state agency the impacts state legislature that have caused us to be in fiscal oversight when all of these talking points and the actions that are being taken to take more and more away from schools while you're not properly funding a funding formula that is heavily reliant on property valuation when you calculate capacity. So that capacity says you, Lexington, because your property values went up, are more able to raise more local dollars. So we're going to lower the state money that's coming into you. That doesn't make any sense. And so from a local community member, they're like, what is going on, Lexington, or any other district, pick it. What is going on? Well, here's what's going on. Our state share percentage has now dropped down to 30% because they have a mathematical manipulation that they're applying to shift more of the burden to the local communities. While they come out with talking points that say, it's all the same dollars. So it's all the same dollars, whether it's state or federal or local, but you're not properly funding it, while at the same time you're demonizing the property taxes, lowering the dollar that you're going to send to Lexington because of the valuations going up under the reasoning that Lexington can bring in more of those dollars. And then you're telling those taxpayers that, oh, sorry, it's your schools that are heavily reliant on property taxes, when you as a state are continuing to lower that as the money is shoveled elsewhere. That is what's happening here. And it is decimating schools, communities, and the long-term impact, the short-term and long-term impact is going to be felt forever. Way more than a $90 credit on a property tax bill or whatever little, while all of these different things are happening at the state level to, let's just say it, more benefit the rich than they are benefiting us local communities out here in the rural communities. Down there in Columbus, I think it's lost on the legislature down there, the impact that you're going to have on the schools. I mean, it's going to mean people, it means jobs, it's decimating this community, and it's happening. And I want you to hear it firsthand. I've reached out to you. I've been professional in all of my communications to you. I have never yelled at you through email. I've tried to explain it because I truly believe that there are people making laws that do not understand school funding or how any of it even impacts it. I don't know if they even look at the simulations and what the current law actually is, or if they're getting their marching orders from somebody else that doesn't understand it. I don't know truly what's happening. There's clearly some underlying desire that people have when it comes to public education and the complete catastrophic decimation of public education. And I don't know what those underlying, I'm not in the inner circles of that, but it's happening. And I think you need to hear it firsthand that it is happening and it's going to be irreparable. That's where we're at right now. It's irreparable what we're dealing with here. And I know the talking points. I've heard them. I watch Ohio News Channel more than I ever wanted to watch it. And I hear those talking points, and those talking points are I know what they are. They're political talking points that get your point across and everything that you talked about here. It's just not. It's disingenuous is what it is. It really is. It ends up being, it's when you're not considering the full impact on the community, the students, the members of this community, the residents of the communities that you serve here through this region, and so when it comes to the board member, let me just speak to the board member that you didn't understand why they would say that. They're saying that because there's a point where as a board member, you have to throw your hands up in the air and say, just blow the whole thing up. You're destroying it. You at the state legislature are destroying public education. And so, yeah, we have to keep hearing the talking point of that being on the potential ballot. We're going to get rid of all property taxes. Fine, just get rid of all property taxes is what the board member's saying, because what you are doing is picking winners and losers. So your suburban Columbus schools are doing just fine, but us rural communities and things like, and some I'm sure aren't, because I see your face there, some I'm sure aren't, it ends up being, if you get rid of all of it, yeah, there's such a crisis. You're creating a crisis throughout. There's crisis. Fiscal oversight is being sent more than they've ever had to send it to any districts out there ever in the history of fiscal oversight because of the actions that are being taken at the state legislature. So I just want you to hear that firsthand. I want you to know I've tried to reach out. I've tried to write letters. I've tried to write emails. I've tried to explain it. I've tried to explain specifically how this impacts us specifically at Lexington and across the greater region. It feels like it falls on deaf ears. I appreciate that you've had other conversations. I appreciate that you've had good coffee and all of that. But I've tried for the past, it feels like years, months, to talk about each of these proposals, and it continues to be a moving target every single time because every time you turn around, there's more and more and more that comes out that's just, wow, I can't believe this is another attack. And so how this list of all of these immediate reductions in services throughout this community wasn't, appreciate Pat put this together and everybody got to look at it and how the initial reaction was, we can't cut this much in services to our community. How is that not the reaction? How are we here potentially about to hear that you're actually going to go through with this after hearing that another bad idea is very frustrating. So I stayed within, I know I went over.
I think you went a little
under
over.
my 3 hours,
But I felt you wanted to be heard and I wanted to afford you the opportunity.
absolutely. I appreciate it. So,
My turn, Tony, please.
I should hold Lexington to 3 minutes cumulative.
I'll be very short this time. I do
No, go
appreciate
ahead.
the applause last time. Thank you. I'm not even gonna take credit for this because it came from Gavin Bates, who happens to live in our district, is a Lexington graduate, and is now trying to keep Pioneer in a good place as you do all this. This list that you made, you're talking about numbers. What did you say about these numbers, Gavin? Yeah, these aren't numbers. In public school, these are people. Thank you.
Marilyn and Bob.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out to my office. I came to one of your school board meetings to listen. And I understand the frustration. It does not fall on deaf ears. Because on the other side, we get calls and emails from residents. Why are my property taxes going through the roof? And we have to respond to that. Because they want to know why their property taxes are going up so high. In all of if you look back, and this is not something that any of us in the room really created, because it goes back decades. We have not grown in the state of Ohio at the same rate as the rest of the country. We have aged. Our population in the state of Ohio has aged. We have more people retiring. We are working hard to attract more people here because the only way to increase the taxes is to increase the base. We have to attract more people to Richland County. We have to attract more people to the state of Ohio to live here, to work here. We have to attract businesses here. Otherwise, we cannot increase the base to cover the amount of services that we have. That is one of the things that we are I see the superintendent very frustrated. I understand. You're right. These are people. I worked at the local level. I have worked with many of the people in the city of Shelby, the 100 and some employees in the city of Shelby. I understand that these are people. But we're right now trying to keep a decimation of property tax and the impact that that's going to have on all of the people that are in Lexington schools. And all of the work that you are doing in Lexington schools and Shelby and Mansfield. All of that work, we are trying to keep this ballot initiative from passing and giving property owners and voters a reason to vote no. We have increased funding for schools. It's not enough. It's not enough. According to
Hey, do you
you.
talk to those people that call you and say, do you explain why you don't update the base cost side of the formula? Do you have those technical conversations? Do you understand the base cost side of the formula and why it hasn't been updated for over half a decade? So the base costs aren't updated, but you update the capacity side, which then brings down the state level, which then you should explain to those taxpayers, we're decreasing the state share of what we should be paying to that particular district, and therefore the only other revenue stream is from your local property taxes. That should be the conversation, and I hope that's a conversation that you have with them that says, we're only updating the capacity side. We're not gonna update the base cost side, and that naturally causes this, a shifting of the burden to the local taxpayer. So that should be the answer. I can record it and you can play it for them when they call in and you can say that to them. That's what the answer should be, because that's what's happening. And in that answer, there's nothing that anybody wants to hear that, oh, it's the same tax dollars that come through the state that come from the local community. That's not what they want to hear. And that is the true answer.
So that discussion took place during the budget.
Yeah.
And we had school districts that came in and said, please increase the inputs for education.
Update the inputs.
Update, I'm sorry.
The formula was written to be, because
Update,
it renders
but it
the
was
formula useless.
But it was also written to remove guarantees. But they didn't want to remove the guarantees. They wanted the inputs updated.
Right.
And I'm just telling you the arguments that came in.
And so as a formula district that Lexington is, so you keep the guarantees, you don't update the base inputs. So yes, there are districts that are millions of dollars into the guarantee, and great. But a district that's in the crosshairs of the formula, when it comes to you're not updating the base cost inputs, our funding drops dramatically compared to what it should be. And we are the ones, so you keep the guarantees, great. That doesn't impact a district that you're serving. And to fully understand what that overall impact is and the impact that that has to not properly update the base cost, that we're getting in the weeds in now because people don't understand that, but people don't understand that, which is part of the problem. People don't understand what is happening at the state that is causing this. And we are the ones that have to answer to it. When you're not updating the formula properly, the way the formula was written, you might as well just trash the formula. Because what you're doing is you're only updating one side. Vice versa, if we only updated the base cost, it said costs are rising, but we're not going to update the capacity, which we shouldn't update the capacity because we're attacking the 60%. It's weighted on valuations, property valuations. So we're still the formula is still calculated like you're not attacking any sort of growth while you're attacking the growth and eliminating the growth. But in the formula, you're saying we're going to reduce your state funding. Similarly, if we only updated base costs and we didn't update this side, we'd shift more and more of the burden to the state funds. But you're just doing the opposite because you control the purse string. And so now to that taxpayer, you should be able to say to them, you're not properly updating the formula. That's causing more and more of your taxes to be required to go to school districts that we set up the systems for to fund schools that are unconstitutionally heavily reliant on property tax. We set up the system, we're not properly funding the system. Now your taxes have to go up. Now your district, who's never had to come for an income tax levy, is gonna have to come for an income tax levy because what other choice do they have? Right? That's where we're at. That's the truth.
Okay, that's very technical. Perhaps you guys
It
can
should
talk
be. I need more
offline.
people down
Yeah.
there that are more tech.
Anyone else?
Rob Peterson, Madison Local Schools. I'm not gonna be as technical, but, gonna be pretty passionate about this. I've invested 34 years in Madison Local Schools and educating our students. And, we got the same letter as Lexington did this week regarding our low fund balances. And, you know, I appreciate Marilyn, you saying you understand and you care about this, but, I'm gonna read, a statement by, Speaker Huffman that I read in the Columbus Dispatch. And I think this shows that nobody cares about public schools.
Sure does.
Down there. Huffman said that in these debates, school district officials always say lawmakers' changes will lead to teachers' cuts. He just shared that, you know, and I looked at how many cuts of different positions across the county would be if these were enacted. But let me go a little bit further into his statement, and this is quoted. That's an argument that's always made, and this is so condescending, that if we don't follow the fair school funding plan, we're going to have to lay off teachers. We're going to have to not have lights for Friday night at the football game. That'll be the first thing to go, Huffman said. And here's the one, here's the quote. What we have to do is make good policy for the whole state, and in some ways, be dispassionate about it. I find that completely condescending and ridiculous to come from one of our state lawmakers, particularly the Speaker of our House. I just hope that we won't be dispassionate about education and our other agencies here. I looked at just the owner-occupied credit for Madison Local Schools. If that credit were to go through here today, the average reduction of taxes for our residents is $20. $20. Yet it would cost our schools $168,000 in the middle of a budget that we've already submitted to the county auditor, and we can't afford to lose $168,000.
But Rob, just to counter, you and I have a really, really good relationship, so. Understand that, right? But that's the tools that the state legislature had given us. You can extend the owner occupant up to X. Would it be more? Potentially, but that's the tools we have. But I would like to say, we all as governments, and I know the counter, because I can see Jason, he's gonna say, well, our funding's decreased. But everyone, we would all admit in the past 2 years, at the burden of our taxpayers, that we've all seen the benefit of the inside millage increase, yes? Because I'm looking at the numbers and I see the inside millage increases would still be more that we have received in the past 2 years. That includes Richland County government, by the way. If we just did the owner occupant, would you not agree that the increases that we as governments have experienced at the backs of the taxpayers would still be more than the loss in owner occupant?
I'm not sure what.
I have the numbers if you want them. So Pat, this is where I'm gonna rely on you.
Tony,
You're talking about inside millage, you're talking about a government.
I'm not saying that's right. It is a government created system, but we would all agree we.
You're not factoring in the impact of, and I don't wanna.
Didn't
get
I just say that's
technical,
what you were gonna
but
say?
You're plucking, you're cherry picking. Yeah, you can compare those.
Okay.
But at the same time, what I just talked about, which is too technical, has reduced on the state side of things when it comes to that. So, yeah, we can cherry pick here and there.
I'm not cherry picking, I'm just going off of Richland County, and I said, I knew you were gonna say, well, hey, the state's not funding us. I'm not gonna,
Right.
but I'm trying, the three of us are trying to thread a needle here, and I understand, like, I'm not in favor of doing the homestead exemption. I'm gonna tell you right, I mean, we're gonna all have to speak to where we are. I just think the hit to our local schools is too much, okay? However, we're trying to balance the residents who have suffered a 23% real estate tax increase over the past 3 years. And I understand that impacts all of you, but for me to look at a resident and say, we need to provide you some temporary relief, okay? While the state legislature tries to fix the entire system, okay, not just the property tax system. We're also trying to do that too. So we hear from schools, but we have residents here and who I've heard from loudly and at Board of Revision. That's the other thing. The Board of Revision hearings, as Pat and I sat on Board of Revision this year, there are resident after resident after resident that are coming in and saying, my property taxes are going up and up. So this is what the state legislature has given us, not, I mean, it is what
And
it
the
is.
state legislature had the option and had a proposal in front of them to do it themselves and backfill it as they do with the homestead rollback as it currently stands. And then they kicked the can to the local communities to do that and not have a backfill. They chose to do that. Right, we understand that's what's happening from our state legislature. And yes, so let's,
Also, we do fund schools. 39% of the state budget goes to public education. So to say that the state's not funding education, if you take out the federal dollars that come in that flow through us for Medicaid, if you take that out, between Medicaid and the schools, those are the two largest things that the state funds. So in this last state budget, the amount of money put to K-12 education was 39% of the state budget.
I never said the state doesn't fund schools. I said that
Actually-
the state is not funding based on the formula as it is written. They're shifting more and more of the burden to the local community. Did the state not fund public schools? That's what I think.
Absolutely, the state
Yeah.
should fund public schools,
Right.
but I
I think there
don't,
are people in the state legislature that probably say they shouldn't.
I don't know of anybody in the state legislature that does not think that we should be funding public education.
Robbie, I didn't mean to.
How
cut you off.
about at a constitutional level? Back when the Roth passed or went through the court system, states were funding schools state was funding schools at a level of 44%. At the end of this biennium, that's going to be down to 32%.
Well, there's not a level, I don't believe in the Constitution that says that the states have to be this much of the budget. There's not that percent.
What I'm saying is that percentage has dropped 12% since 1997.
Yes,
And where does that shift go? Locally.
but the amount in a state budget that is going toward public education has continued to increase. Just, I mean,
I'm not, over the next 2 years, we're gonna see less than half of 1% increase to maps. That's not gonna keep up with inflation.
And look, we're an hour in, but this is very important, so I'm willing to keep going if all of you are. This is extremely important and it's an opportunity for everyone to be heard. I think we have Pastor Kurtz here. Remember, this isn't sermon time, so you got about 3
I'm
minutes.
speaking as a private citizen. My name's Rob Kurtz,
Stand up,
and-
please, please.
and I just want to say it this way. As a private citizen, there seems to be a disconnect, and this is the disconnect that I have. Maybe I'm the only one in here. But I'm paying taxes in my properties. I'm paying about $800 a month for my property taxes for the rest of my life. I get dinged because I build a nice house. If I build a shack, I wouldn't pay as much. That makes no sense. And then you said that property taxes went up 23%. I have a new house, so I don't know. So I look back at my house that I sold, it went up 56% from 19 to 24. So the disconnect for me is if we've gone up 23% in the last few years and it's 24 billion, that's 4.5 billion. Schools are saying they're not getting enough money or less money. Where's all this money going? Where's the 4.5 extra billion that's coming in that we're all, no wonder we're getting upset about it. No wonder we're wanting to say, the farmers are getting killed on property tax. And sometimes the farmers have to pay taxes they don't even get to vote on because they live just outside of a district. So the property tax owner, property tax people are getting fed up and saying, let's just forget the whole thing. Because it seems like everything's going up and yet the schools are saying they're getting less. So what's the disconnect there? Where's the money?
well, there was huge inflation.
Right.
I mean, huge inflation that has impacted salaries, healthcare benefits have gone through the roof.
The elderly, what about the elderly? They're on fixed incomes, can't keep up with the inflation, but yet their taxes go up. And then because they're in $100,000 or $200,000 home, now they can't pay that. So what, they paid on it for 30 years, now they're just, because they can't pay it, give it back to the government? Where are they supposed to go? Into an apartment for what? They're paying rent on taxes.
Yes.
That's what the taxes are. So what are you gonna do about the elderly?
We have, again, the homestead exemption, which
They're not poor. He just said that himself.
well,
No.
but we have the
No, I'm
homestead.
for the exemption. I'm not, I wouldn't be for the
There's a-
piggyback.
There's a piggyback homestead exemption that we passed that gives locals the ability to do what we refer to as a piggyback homestead exemption. But there's already a homestead exemption. I hope.
But
that
you have to qualify. We've already been through that. That was the first question.
But I'm hoping that potentially you could reach out to the auditor's office and maybe you qualify now for the homestead exemption.
Well, that's a maybe. That doesn't help the elderly that's not.
Well,
The same rules,
But this is,
they can check every year.
but this is the
Forget the
question.
rules we're given, that's.
But this is the question, is how do we help individuals stay in their homes because they are getting huge property tax increases? How do we fund not just schools? Well, we got other county agencies here that have to be funded as well. How do we properly fund government that provides a whole slew of services to residents? And how do we stay competitive in the state of Ohio so that we attract more people to the state of Ohio to build the base so that we can build capacity in schools, in businesses, in housing right now? We're not building capacity. All of those things it has to be balanced. We as a state have to look at all of those different things and try our best to do a balancing act. And typically that means nobody is happy because we are trying to balance and meet the needs of seniors to help keep them in their home, to actually increase housing so that people have places that they can even live if they want to come to the state of Ohio, and also properly fund education. Schools feel like they are under attack. I understand they do. I hear it from them frequently. Let me say this also. I said this yesterday or earlier this week in our caucus. I can support public education and still be in favor of ed choice. You may not think that I can, but I do. I'm very supportive of our public schools. My children graduated from public schools in the last 10 years and received a quality education in Shelby City Schools. I graduated from Plymouth local schools. Both of those statements can be true. I can support education. I can support local government and also think that our property taxes went up too much. And we have to look at what can we do to bring our tax burden, to keep our tax burden in line and bring our tax burden down as much as we can. But at the end of the day, it also comes down to this, and we don't necessarily like this. Residents are going to be faced with a choice. What government do you want? What services do you want? You don't want to pay taxes? What services do you want to give up if you don't want to pay taxes? Because all of these services that are provided by individuals in this room, whether it's road patrol by the sheriff's department, fire protection, townships, and everything that they bring to the table, public education, county government. We're sitting in a courthouse that provides services to residents every day, all day long. What services do residents want? And that's ultimately what they're going to have to decide.
Mr. Kurtz, a little bit to your question. From 22 to 24, the additional money that was taxpayers paid and went to the schools, if we would go with the owner occupied and reduce a little bit of their tax, and we're talking about very little, it would be to the schools, it would be 6.7% less. They made the 23, we went up 23, and of that 23%, we're only going to go into 6.7. So the reduction to the schools, it is a reduction. But It's not a lot of money. And the taxpayers aren't gonna feel a lot of money back. But it's a step, and we can wait and see if the legislators come up with some more better solutions, or when they do.
Yeah, I do think it's important to note this would be an annual decision. So the thought process I have is, I think it's imperative that we afford taxpayers relief in the immediate, as you said. And to your answer, that's the median, okay? Because you're right, people in your situation certainly have experienced more than 23%. That's the median statistics are showing in the state of Ohio the past 3 years. But there's been a 23%. That's the median. That varies based on levies that are passed, homes you may build, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to be clear that yes, there are half the people in your shoes are higher than that 23%, which is right. We've heard from people whose property taxes have gone up 40%. And they fund us, but where I'm sitting, we're trying to balance what we're hearing from the schools, but also what we're hearing from you as a taxpayer. And I think while it's not a ton of money, as Daryl said, it's an opportunity to afford Richland County residents a little bit of relief while the state works on bigger solutions. But I have heard from the schools, trust me, I hear from Jeremy and Jason often. So, and I'm happy because I like it. And Rob and I talk often. We're trying to be mindful of you, right? We're trying to thread the needle a little bit. But I do think it's imperative for us to provide some tax relief to our residents. While also not really, I mean, it would be $1 million loss in revenue to Mansfield City Schools, should we do both. So we're trying to, again, thread the needle. I think I saw a hand.
Deb Schweitzer, Mifflin Township. So I kind of agree with what Rob Peterson said. How is $20 on your tax bill? You know, you're gonna look at that and say, you know, I'm voting for that.
Well, that was in Madison. It might be more in other places.
It's probably gonna be more, a little bit more in Mansfield. But that little bit amount, when it, like you said, it went up 40%. That's peanuts. And our schools, the townships, I looked at the list, the townships aren't gonna suffer as much as those schools are. That's, you know, 3 salaries probably, I don't know. But, you know, 20 or 50 bucks off your tax bill. It's, to me, it's a slap in the face, like, you know, what, just keep it, what's 50 bucks?
Well, I think, because you and I talked about this, right? So I said, I certainly, $20 could be a tank of gas for some people.
And I
And if
understand,
you ask me, if I'd rather have 20 bucks or lose 20 bucks, I'd rather have 20 bucks.
I would too. I'm not saying
Uh,
it's not appreciated. But I think in the long run, what you're taking away is more hurtful than the 20 bucks. I mean, I know you're trying. I really do.
That's what
And I
the state has given
Yes,
us. I mean,
it's killing you guys, and I'm sympathetic to that, because I couldn't imagine being in your shoes, or Maryland's. Or Pat's, for that, you know, anybody, but, I just look at what the schools are taking.
But I also think
Even
you need to
Richland
look at the cumulative, and I know that's how Rob is doing it. I don't, he just spoke to it. So yeah, as a whole to Madison, but as a whole to the Madison residents and the Richland County residents, to me, it's providing $1.4 million of tax relief to the people that we represent. So I don't necessarily just look at it on an individual basis. That is $1.4 million back into the pockets of Richland County residents. And I understand it might be Richland County government will suffer revenue loss nowhere near the schools. I'm not going to pretend that it will, okay, but it will, and it will impact county governments. But to be able to tell Richland County residents that from where I sit, these two may have a different view. To put $1.4 million back into the pockets of Richland County residents on a temporary basis while the state works on fixes. Again, we don't have to do this every year. But I think from where I sit, I think it would be a good day to say, hey, taxpayers, you've built this beautiful building. We have an opportunity to provide you a little bit of relief, not a lot, not gonna pretend it is. We hear from the schools and around and around we go, but that's sort of just my position. But that's why I wouldn't be in favor of the homestead, because I don't think it's fair to ask Coach Jay over here to take a $1 million hit. So we're trying to balance the needs of it.
what's gonna go on the ballot next year. I mean, we all know it's going. Can we fight it in the court if it passes?
But it hit the ballot box.
That's a whole other meeting. I'll talk to you after. I mean, there are ripple effects from this issue that if it passes, townships, bond issues, fire departments go away. I mean, that's for a whole other meeting, because if that issue passes, Short of revenue replacement, townships, fire services cease to exist, including our schools. So
So one of the things, as far as the piggyback bill that we've had, just to put it into perspective from the state standpoint, every county is going to be different. So for instance, I was talking with a colleague, Pickaway County is doing one of them, I don't remember which one. It's $360 a year for their residents. So every county is going to be different, the impact. Some counties might, it may not be worth it. I'm not gonna make that decision because I'm not a county commissioner anymore, but it may not be worth it, but some counties it might be worth it. So, I was gonna say one other thing. Just left me.
Cliff, any thoughts?
I think I certainly agree with Representative John that we have to look at the long game here. We have to provide a disincentive for people to vote yes to eliminate property taxes. I heard the term decimate a number of times. You want to decimate? Eliminate property taxes. Your townships go away, many schools go away, many services go away. I think a modest recognition of at least those that have complained to me personally about how they can't afford the property taxes any longer, how it's become the largest single expense for them. Do I say, well, the $50 doesn't matter? To them, it does. It really does. And they'll argue that way. I think we have to play the long game here, and we have to look at the potential downfall of what happens if property taxes go away. So we have to provide something, some kind of balanced, modest relief to property taxpayers. I know it's going to be going to involve cuts for some people, but I think it's far more survivable than the elimination of property taxes. That's how I feel.
Is there any discussion?
Stand up and say your name, please.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sherry Branham. I'm an Ontario resident, work here in the county, for the county. Is there any evaluation or surveys that have been done on, the for or against the tax posed?
Against the ballot
Against
initiative?
the ballot issue, I'm sorry,
And
yes.
so I don't know if there has been, well, actually, I do know there has been polling that has been done, and the polling shows that if the ballot initiative gets on the ballot to vote on, I think at this point, the polling shows it would pass by 60%. So it came back to me what I was gonna say. So one of the things that Superintendent Browning and I talked about last week when we met is, so what else can we do to potentially dissuade people from signing petitions and also dissuade them from voting for the initiative if it gets on? I know he is looking at sending out a letter to the constituents of Shelby, talking about the great things that Shelby schools are doing, what they mean in the community. It will have to be a grassroots effort if it gets on the ballot to overcome it, which is going to take everybody in this room and many, many, many thousands of people more to fight against the ballot initiative. So while I understand that people are not happy with what we've done, and that the schools feel very much as if they're the ones that are being targeted, again, when it comes to the property tax, 2/3 of it goes to the schools, which is why the schools are going to feel a bigger impact than other local governments. But we have to have these conversations with residents and people that you serve every day. So they understand the true impact of what they're signing. Because sometimes people sign things and they don't really know what they're signing, and they're like, I didn't know it was going to do that.
Exactly.
And we need to make sure that residents who are signing for this and asking for these things, that they understand the real impact of what's going to happen.
Going back to a polling question, was it the group that is pushing the tax, or was it?
That did the poll? I don't know.
I don't believe it was. I believe it was an independent. I had some conversations. It's a very initial poll. Maryland's right. The same people I'm talking to say polling suggests 60% favor abolishing property
I've heard the
tax.
same thing.
These are people I'm talking to in Columbus. And again, we can have that conversation. How many, just curious, how many township representatives have a bond? Any township reps have a bond here? Any Washington Township people? What happens to bonds that townships have taken out if property taxes are abolished? Because townships lose the ability to pay those bonds. These are some of the things that are ripple effects from the initiative.
I don't know. I know we brought that up.
Well, we have one here in the county, right?
Yeah, we have bond for the jail that's paid for out of inside millage. Now, I think we have some flexibility that the way the tax system works that other jurisdictions don't. But yeah, we pay jail, part of the county's jail debt payment. Well, all of it is paid from the inside millage. Yes, ma'am, I saw your hand.
Grace, I'm from Mansfield. I'm not sure if maybe this was answered in other meetings, but I don't understand. I've been paying property taxes for over 40 years and I've never seen a jump like this. And I don't understand why it jumped like this. And I want to say that I think this kickback about people trying to abolish the taxes because they feel like they're getting gouged and they think that it's going to happen again, that there's going to be another one.
So
Well, one of the bills that we passed would limit the increase to that of inflation moving forward. So there are, I think California has it in state law that property valuations can't spike like they have not only here, but I think in other places. Pardon me?
It's Proposition 6, so you can't go over 6% a year, so. 25% is to 40% or whatever, that's a lot. You expect it over the years that your property taxes will increase. But, you know, I've seen different spikes in property.
So briefly, the quick answer to that, and Pat is absolutely gonna correct me, I'm sure, but the reason for the property tax increase in the spike is mainly related to inside millage. And the way property taxes are set up in Richland County is your taxes are based off of your valuations. Okay, now additional levies and the county taxpayers, again, we have a very generous county. We have a lot of county levy. That's considered outside millage that the voters approve. We have passed a couple, if you live in a school district, let's say that's passed a levy recently, Richland County residents recently agreed to pass a Richland County, not us, park district tax, which is an additional tax that passed. But the inside millage piece is is the significant driver. So as values in homes have gone up, the tax system is set up where your taxes are based off your valuations. So as those valuations, as Pat, I think you called them stupid increases, I think you said.
Stupid money.
Stupid money, right?
People were paying stupid money for property. For an example, we have multiple properties that were only valued at anywhere from 175 to 250, that people were paying $300, $400, $500,000 for.
So that's what
what I call
drives.
stupid money,
Correct.
and that's what drives inside millage to increase your taxes.
Yep, so
But that's all.
Not to these levels.
No, not the last
Those
5 years.
valuations were way too high.
right, you remember in
Right.
29 and 2010 when valuations decreased because of the fiscal crisis, property taxes
Right.
reduced. That was before I took office. But now what's happening is the opposite of that. Property taxes have risen significantly in the past 3 years. And as a result, the obligation taxpayers have to pay via their inside millage have gone up substantially. So that's the main driver. That's
Since 2008, when the housing market busted,
correct.
everything went down,
Mhm.
Right.
did a total flip.
Yep,
Right,
that's exactly right.
that's right.
Yes, sir.
And in the last 5 years, it's never happened, that the price of homes have increased the valuation the way they have in the last 5 years. Like I said, people were spending stupid money to get the properties they wanted. And the difference between what happened in the last 5 years and what happened during the real estate bust that started in 9 and was really felt in 10, 11, and 12 was because the mortgage companies at the time were constantly increasing what they were loaning to people. That has flipped. Part of it was a federal law that was passed under Bill Clinton, in which you had to have 15% bad mortgages on your books. To be, and that, the whole part of that process was to get people who were normally not eligible to pay or buy a house, be able to buy a house. I mean, there are other incentives along with it. That didn't happen in these last 5 years. People were actually pulling money out of 401ks, borrowing it from family. And part of the mentality was, I want this house. I don't care what it costs. I'm going to get it. And then you got into bidding war. So that's why I said people were spending stupid money to purchase houses that they were not willing to give up. But because of the way the tax system is built in the state of Ohio, it affected the value. It didn't affect them immediately. It would affect them during either the triennial update or the reappraisal. And that's when everybody's values spike, not because everybody sold houses, but the system is built to where you have an average and it affects everybody, because one of the things that we've always understood is this. Yeah, my property to be valued, so when I sell it, I'm gonna make a good chunk of change. But I don't want it to affect me, how much my taxes go up. Well, that's a headbutting way of looking at things, okay? No, the system in the state of Ohio is set up from the perspective that as values go up in a taxing district, or as sales accumulate in a taxing district, it affects all the values, not immediately. In fact, we don't even change the value based on a purchase price. But there are some counties in the state of Ohio that change values every year. We don't do that. We wait till they do the triennial update. We wait till the reappraisal is done. And the problem was, it was a kicker for the residents of Richland County for tax year 23, which was your bills in calendar year 24.
Okay, yes, sir.
I would just like to say, as far as representatives of Richland County, I would add that Richland County has become more desirable as opposed to it being stupid money that people are paying. They're making arm's length decisions to buy property that is here in Richland County that is desirable. People want to live here because we're right off the 71, we're accessible. It's a great place to live. It's safe communities. And if you go 45 minutes south and you drop your home down there, your value of your home is going to double, potentially triple.
Exactly.
So I don't think
We're
it's
growing.
money. I
No,
got kids that
the
buy,
reason-
I got kids that buy property here that got a great deal
Right.
because this is a great community to live in.
Right.
And yes, it impacts values because we're gonna see more and more. We just haven't experienced what 40 minutes south, 45 minutes out are
But
experiencing.
the reason why I'm calling it stupid money is people weren't getting mortgages for that amount. People were taking money from other sources to get it when they were getting into their bidding wars. That's why I mean it's stupid money. And that's just from my perspective from this. If I can't afford the mortgage, if I have problems with the size of the mortgage, why would I pull money out of my retirement accounts? That's what I mean by stupid money. And we did have property that was in that range that I gave you, between like 175 and 250. That was selling for 3 times what we had it valued at. So eventually that change in value is going to catch up to the tax bill. That's why I said it was stupid money. People were getting bidding wars. And it wasn't the mortgage companies that were driving it. It wasn't the banks that were driving those bidding wars, because they were given 80% of what they determined the value was. And yet people were still paying double what they were available or what they were able to get a mortgage for. That's why I call it stupid money. Not, your perspective is great. Okay, because I know people that work down in Delaware. I know people that work in Columbus that bought houses right off of 71 because it was significantly cheaper. And then all of a sudden, our stuff is shooting up. We've never had an increase in value of 25, 40, anywhere in that range. We had some townships that actually had 40% increases in valuation. We had some townships that had 20% increases in valuation. The counties overall, for the reappraisal that was done in tax year 23, was 28%.
30%.
Yeah. So, no, it's still, we're still in a situation similar to what you're talking about. But the fact that the county's value went up so quick in such a short period of time is what created the spike. Because of the way Ohio's system is. The system needs to change too. It's not just about tax credits. And it's just not about, and I don't understand all that hand gestures and the way you're describing your issues in the school system. I don't understand any of that. But I understand what you're saying. But everything happened too quick in a short period of time.
Right.
And then the residents were paying the burden.
Okay, we were going on an hour and a half. Is there anyone we haven't heard from? I know Sherry, I know, but we're just trying to make sure anyone who hasn't spoken yet. Quickly, please. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Andrea Mock. Me and my husband primarily rent to low income and elderly population. It's really hard to keep the rent prices down when the property taxes continue, in addition to state and federal funding that's being cut to help those residents. So as a landlord, what do we have to do? Raise the rent, which then doesn't help with affordable housing. I've heard statements, this was before us, right? From 1997 to 2003, it was fought in the Supreme Court. Property taxes should not fund the schools in Ohio. This is something that has been discussed for many years. Now it looks like it's being passed on to local officials to be able to deal with this issue. But I also keep up with state legislation, and I can see where we're giving tax incentives for the 187 data centers that we have. Looking at tax credits for millionaires, right? A lot of these people that are coming in and buying these properties are investment groups. And then it prices out your local people that we actually care about, the people that we're trying to help. And we're not getting assistance. But you have investment groups come in, buy housing, drives the housing prices up. And then your local landlords that actually live here and want to help people who are on fixed income, how are we supposed to make a living as well? And still try to support our local schools, because that's something that is important to us as well. It really doesn't add up to me.
So the outside investors that you're talking about, we are beginning to have conversations. What does that look like? Are they the ones that are pricing up and driving up the cost of homes? I also would point out, when we talk about tax incentives, part of it is the word incentive is used for a reason, because it's an incentive to get someone to bring their business here. Intel, as an example, there was a huge incentive for Intel to choose Ohio, because they could have chosen a different state. And that bringing that growth to the state of Ohio. So there were
The PIPS Act, right?
Yes. And that has had positive impacts. There's a company up in Shelby that is a supplier to the new Intel plant that's going in, and they've been able to increase their capacity by a significant amount, hire more people, bring in more individuals. But if you look historically at the state of Ohio, and while we have grown a little bit, the growth in the state of Ohio over the last 55 years has not, I think I mentioned this, has not kept up with the country. The United States since 1970 has grown in population by more than 63%. So 55 years, we are 63% growth in population across the entire United States. The state of Ohio is less than 11. So what can we do from a business standpoint to attract businesses to come here, to bring their companies, jobs here, so that people want to come here and live? But it is a balancing act from a housing standpoint, from an education standpoint. What can we do to make Ohio more attractive? So that we can, again, increase the tax base to help pay for all of the services that government provides. So I understand what you're saying, and you're right. I do think that these outside entities are in some ways driving up the cost. The increase in property tax is absolutely being passed on in your case to those that are trying to rent, which is again why we're trying to figure out ways that we can balance it and keep and bring the property tax amounts down.
Okay. Any last comments? Yes, brief.
I'm sorry. Paul Courier, Mayor of Shiloh, top end of Richland County, bottom end of the food chain when it comes to finances and infrastructure. And we haven't said one thing today about what the police protection and the fire protection is going to be affected if you do this. But I think I'm missing something from last meeting. Do you guys have two option situation?
I guess you could say there's three options. Do nothing, do both, or do one or the other. So you can do four if you do
And the
homestead.
one they can do up to two
Up
and a
to,
half.
one is up to 2.5. The homestead has to be, but look, it's such a small amount to give any real true relief. You gotta do the full 2.5%. So you could do nothing, do both, do one, or do the other. So it depends on you have 3 or 4 options.
Okay, so most of this meeting has been about what's coming up in the future as far as this discussion right now that I just asked you about. You have till October 30th to make this decision? Is
If we
that
want to
correct?
provide residents immediate relief January 1. Yes.
Okay, well, at the last meeting was against any of it. And I was against it because of police and fire protection lawsuits. Now, Shiloh doesn't lose a whole lot of money and neither does the joint fire department. But, there's gotta be a happy medium here where you can do part of it.
Well, to me, that is that. As what I said, that is the happy medium, right? Do the owner occupant as opposed to the homestead. While it isn't the amount, Deb's right, it's not a ton. It touches more taxpayers in Richland County while harming our schools the least. So to me, that is the happy medium you're speaking about.
Well, then that's what, in my opinion, then that's what you should do, because this other stuff that's coming up, there's a big battle for the next 11, 12 months
Correct.
before November of
Yep.
next year. And that can be worked on, but right now, this, if you just do that alone, that seems to hurt Shiloh and everybody else less
Correct.
than doing nothing. Yeah, everybody needs a little bit of help. I don't want any taxes at all. No, I gotta pay them because I gotta have police protection and fire protection.
Well, stick around in May and you might get your wish.
Well, that. But
Okay.
that's it.
All right, we're going on an hour and a half. I think, anyone else?
Make a motion.
All right, this time I'll ask, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to piggyback the 2.5% owner occupied tax to give relief to, I believe, the most citizens in the county. We've got about 73,000 parcels in the county. And giving a piggyback of the 2.5% owner occupied credit would give a modest relief to 32,158 of those residents. Whereas a homestead exemption would provide 9,341 some tax relief. So I make a motion to piggyback the 2.5% owner occupied
Effective January 1.
effective January 1.
Okay.
Second,
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes,
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
yes.
okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're gonna stick around for questions unless it involves school funding formula, because I'm not gonna understand it. All right, Jay? So thank you guys for coming.